everybody. My name is Sophie, and today we're going to talk about Bitcoin and leadership. So, before we begin, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you today that Bitcoin, as a philosophy, can change the way we lead and change the definition of leadership. Well, that's a tall order, I know. But let's see how it goes. Before we begin, I'm gonna set the stage. I want you to imagine the concept of a leader. Think about all those stories you have heard as a child, the heroes of the past, the man with a cape that comes to the rescue, that goes through the hero's journey, the leader that takes on these obstacles and comes out victoriously. This is the kind of leader you would trust, right? This is the kind of leader you find accountable for their own actions. This is the kind of leader that knows how to maneuver and adapt to the challenges that they are faced. And also, this is the kind of leader that does not take advantage of his power, right? Fast forward, we now have a different notion of leaders. Now our leaders as politicians that sit in their ivory seats that are so unreachable and hard to trust, and consumed by power that they take from the masses, and they are not trustworthy. They are not accountable for their actions. And certainly, they are not adaptable. So let's compare that image with the heroes we've always been aspired to become, the stories we've been told as children, and the leaders that we see right now. The corrupt politicians that don't hear us, or when they do, they don't care. So, as you have heard me say, I am defining leadership through 4 different lenses. Remember the hero that we just saw, the guy with the cape? I define him through the fact that he has power, right? Somehow either he's born into power or given power by the people and his bravery, but he possesses power. So power is an important concept of leadership. Another element is accountability, because sooner or later as a leader, you will make a mistake and you need to be accountable and responsible. In the words of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So it is important to be accountable. Also, it's important to be trustworthy, right? Trust is a part of the equation of leadership. You need to have the trust of people in order to be powerful, right? Or that trust be given to you by the state, by legislation, by some other form of trust. And also, it is important to be adaptable. It's important to be agile, right? Agility, change, innovation is also a part of leadership because you need to pivot when things go wrong. So let's see why the way we are now is so different from the way that we were told as children. What is wrong right now, guys, if you think about it? I want to argue the problem is money. I want to argue that because our money is corrupt, because our money, the fiat reality, is generally full of stories of politicians that take away power from normal people and hoard it for their own good. And also, it is full of stories of people that are not accountable for their actions. So with money being corrupt, right, we no longer can be leaders that take ownership of our own hero's journey. Let me pause here and give you a little bit of story about me. I was born in Iran in 1987, right after, towards the end of the Iran and Iraq war, after the revolution. And my life was filled with the stories of knowing toxic leaders and knowing the sad stories of what it does to people when they trust politicians and root for them. Right now in Iran, the inflation from one year to another is 40%, above 40%. What that means is that if you have $100 in the bank, next year will be half as important, as valuable as what it was the year before. How can you be really a leader for your own family, for your own community, for an organization, really, if money is so meaningless? In Mexico, maybe we are not at a level where inflation is killing us. But this is a problem that people in Iran, Venezuela, and a lot of other places have faced, that when money is so corrupt, the power becomes corrupt. As a result of it, leaders become the type that we cannot trust. So there is a direct correlation with corrupt money and corrupt leadership. They go hand in hand. And also in a situation that we live right now, when the money is corrupt, the politicians are not incentivized to change. Adaptability is a function of wanting to change. Why would they change when they have all the power? When people like us have to think about survival, people in Iran have to work for their families harder and harder every year just to put food on the table. So in a situation like that, why think about changing when every year you gain more power from the masses and those people become less and less powerless? So today I want to propose a solution. I believe we are lucky to be at the midst of a revolution, a paradigm shift, a change in the way that we view and utilize money. Other panelists and other people that come after me to talk about money and what it means to have good money, they will tell you that Bitcoin is decentralized. They will tell you that Bitcoin means that you don't need to ask permission from a politician. They will tell you that Bitcoin is scarce. That means they cannot inflate it to infinity, and then you're left with wondering how you can put money, how you can put food on the table. And they will tell you that in Bitcoin we can trust. So as we embark on this journey of understanding Bitcoin, not just as a currency, as hard money, but rather as a philosophy, as a new way of looking at leadership, as a new way of empowering ourselves instead of looking at the politicians and the people outside of us, we go through this, what they call the rabbit hole. First, you question the money. And then you question notional power. And then you start to question your place in the universe. What is your responsibility? Now that we have a tool like Bitcoin that allows us to take back the power and not rely on a politician to tell us how and when to spend our money, what is your responsibility as an individual? So, in a world that is Bitcoinized, and in a world that you don't have to trust the politician, what happens? The power is decentralized, meaning each one of us will own our destiny, our power, our future. And with that comes the idea of accountability, meaning every single one of us is now accountable towards the power that we are given. And also, we start to trust ourselves. This is a concept of leader identity. Trusting in yourself and seeing yourself as a leader is not, and I repeat, is not a function of having a leadership position. It's a function of self-perception. Every single one of us can be a leader for our families, for our communities, for ourselves, for our own future. So the concept of leadership is very much a function of empowerment, a function of knowing that you can take the initiative and not waiting for the next person to tell you what to do. So now you have to trust yourself. You have no other excuse, no more excuse left. Because in a world with Bitcoin, you are powerful, and therefore you shall trust yourself. Another factor that we described in the beginning was the concept of adaptability, right? The hero of our journey that we saw with the cape, he goes through this hero's journey and slays dragons after dragons, right? In our, many common stories as humankind, the archetype of a hero is always the slayer of the dragons and, come up with new ways to adapt, right? What that means is that the hero learns from his or her mistakes every time they encounter a problem. Hence, they become anti-fragile, meaning that they embody that pain and suffering and learn from it. They don't become a victim, but rather they become anti-fragile. That means now, next time something happens, they'll be more capable. So every day, they learn how to become a better leader. And I believe Bitcoin empowers that kind of model of leadership and allows the individual to be more anti-fragile. Because no longer you have to spend your time looking at a politician as a central bank, as something outside of yourself, but rather you can work on yourself to be more resilient, adaptable, and agile. So, I want to leave you with some, if I may, humble advice. I've been doing leadership development for many, many years now, and I have been working with so many fantastic organizations, developing leaders, and my background in engineering and system engineering and bioengineering and my PhD in leadership has allowed me the understanding of what it takes to be a good leader. And I thought about what it means to be a good leader now before we are in a space that we are running on Bitcoin standard. So let's embody that kind of identity of leadership now and get ready for a role that allows us to take back power. Because in so many countries right now, and thanks to this university and a lot of the efforts that Mr. Salinas is doing, and so many visionaries like him, this is possible for each one of us to do right now. So I think it is very important to not be afraid of power. I know it's a controversial thing to say, but I think it is important for the individual to embody their power. That does not mean to be egocentric. That doesn't mean to think, oh, I'm the center of the universe. You still need to be a servant leader. You need to think about serving others and having a higher purpose for your act. But it is okay to embody the power and see yourself, perceive yourself as a leader. Actually, there's a study done by McKinsey that by just seeing yourself as a leader, viewing yourself as a leader, which they call leader identity, you're 75% 10% more likely to get into leadership positions. So just changing your mindset about how you view yourself, whether you see yourself as a follower or a leader, will really contribute significantly to your success in life. So embody power, see yourself as a leader, take initiatives, but please, please reject ego. Also, it is important to be accountable and responsible towards the people we care about, and even the people we don't care about. Let's engage in dialogue and take care of each other and be accountable and show that kind of accountability through action, not just words. Let's be better for one another. And in the world that I'm painting today, I think we need to realize there will be a lot of hardship ahead of our path. We should realize there will be many dragons that we need to slay until we get to a world that we can take back the power. And that's going to be a lonely future if we choose this path. So I encourage you guys to really think about your relationships. Create intentional networks. Find like-minded people, whether that's inside Bitcoin ecosystem or liberty or whatever that would really advance your humanity. Find people that would support you. And take on this role of giving to your network. Be a constant giver through these relationships that is hopefully symbiotic in nature. Another concept that I will discuss today was the ability for the leader to maneuver and adapt as a result of obstacles and mistakes, right? Agility, that was the A. That is only possible if we take on a mentality of continuous learning. Last night, I got the opportunity to talk to some of the students from this wonderful university, and they told me the experiential learning they take on every day to experiment, take risks, and learn about not just doing technology, but becoming better leaders. And I was so inspired by that. And I want to encourage every single one of you to think about a roadmap, a developmental roadmap for your own learning. If you don't know about Bitcoin, don't listen to me. Learn about it. Talk to someone who knows more than me. Or talk to me. Maybe I can help you too. I don't know. But always have an intentional approach to leadership. Because I think if you embody power, if you are accountable, if you find a way to have the right relationships and not lonely and isolated, and if you constantly learn, I really think we can go back to the vision of the heroes of our stories that rose to power, stood in front of the dragons of their times, whether that is central bank, whether that's politicians, or just anything that would impede their way from being more successful. They stood up to stood up to power and paved their path forward. I believe that future is possible if you choose to be leaders. Thank you.